This is how you make a complaint with the North Carolina Attorney General's office, whether you want to make it online or by phone, you can do that. And it's easy to do. And we have, of course, North Carolina Attorney General Josh Stein here with us. So many times when we put up that number and that information, people say, is it anonymous?
It depends. You can call and ask a question and get an answer, and we can respect your anonymity. If you file a formal written complaint, a complaint form, that becomes a public record. That's just how North Carolina law is. And so at that point, it would not be anonymous.
It's good to know. Okay, this person says, does Social Security ever call people? I got a phone call saying my Social Security number has been invalid because of identity theft. Do I really need to press 1?
No, Tanya, and I'm laughing simply because at 2:31 today, I got this.
Social Security number for fraudulent activities. So when you get this message,
we all get them. The Social Security Administration does not make phone calls to people saying there's fraudulent activity or you need to ensure that you're not a victim of identity theft. They do not do business that way. They will send you a letter if you have an issue. If you ever get a question if you have a question about some governmental agency, Social Security Administration, the IRS, your county clerk about jury duty, anything like that, it's reasonable to be fearful when you get them. That's why the criminals use that as a strategy. Just call the organization online, go online, find the phone number and call them directly, and they will assure you that it was not legitimate. But if you ever have a doubt, just call the organization yourself by going online and finding the right phone number to ask. Don't call the number who called you, because those are the criminals.
It's funny, most of those organizations, they send every single thing by mail. They would never take the time to call you to tell you X, Y, or Z. So think about it that way. All right. This person says, what is this decriminalization of marijuana? Does that mean that drugs are not going to be illegal?
I am honored. The governor had asked me to co-chair a task force he created back in June. It's called the Task Force for Racial Equity and Criminal Justice. And what he asked us to do, there's 24 of us, the other co-chairs, Supreme Court Justice Anita Earls. We have a broad array of stakeholders. We have law enforcement, chiefs of police, sheriffs, DAs, but we also have criminal justice reform advocates and public defenders. And the charge he gave us was to find out ways to make our criminal justice system fairer for all North Carolinians. And one thing we looked at was this one issue of marijuana prosecutions. There's research that shows that white people and black people smoke marijuana at very similar rates. But when you look at and see who is arrested and who is convicted, and last year, more than 30,000 people were arrested for possession of marijuana and more than 10,000 were convicted, more than 60% of people were black, people of color. And yet they're only 22% of the state population. So it's really disproportionate. Something is wrong in the application of the law. So we want to unclog our courts. We want to empty our jails of people who are doing this by making it a civil violation, not a crime, but a violation of the law that's enforced by like a speeding ticket, by an infraction, by a fine. And in that way, we're not burdening people with criminal records or putting them in jail for simple marijuana possession.
And I know that task force, I thought that December 1st had been like the deadline for all of these recommendations. It has now been moved to December 15th. Is that correct?
You're right. We asked the governor if he could give us an extension on our homework. We've been tackling so many issues. We have more than 100 recommendations that we're going to make to the governor. We needed a little more time to do the work. But by mid-December, we're going to issue our report, and it will have just a broad array of ideas that the legislature can pass, that district attorneys can do, that chiefs of police can do, that the administrative office of the courts can do throughout the criminal justice process to make it work better.
Gotcha. We will be looking on December the 15th, and we've got plenty of robocall questions. We want to be able to pull up the graphic that we have very quickly just about No Mo Robo. That is one of the ways to be able to stop the robocalls, as well as to give a complaint to let people know what kind of robocalls are out there. The North Carolina Attorney General can start looking at those robocalls when you make a formal complaint to try and stop them. Thank you so much, North Carolina AG Josh Stein. Thank you for joining us.
Daniel, my pleasure. Good to be with you.
All right, so we talked with the AG for just a little bit about some scams that are going around. That's not the end of the scams. What we want to do is continue the conversation. Coming up next, the Better Business Bureau is talking about how to do charitable giving the safe way, making sure you don't get scammed and making sure that your money goes to the charities that you really want it to.